Out. All right, let's have a look. We are streaming. We seem to be live. Let me have a little check. All right. Think everything is up and running. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael. This is my colleague Jensi.
Good evening.
Good evening. We are both trainers, Adobe Certified Instructors. We live in Belgium. We are currently in Ghent in the lovely letter cabinet. As you can see, this is one of our workshops or one of our locations, and this is actually a letterpress workshop. This is the first of our live broadcasts that we'll be doing every 2 weeks on Tuesday nights. Each time we're gonna pick a different topic, different trainers or people from the industry that will talk about their work, or some brand new apps that are interesting to look at. Tonight we're gonna be talking about CC libraries. And how they got some more focus on the new and how the CC libraries are put front and center by the new Creative Cloud desktop app that we got last October. So without further ado, we have like 30 minutes and we have plenty of ground to cover. So let's get started,
Yeah.
shall we?
Yeah,
All right.
I'm very excited.
All right, let me switch here and let's open up the Creative Cloud desktop app. Still have too much windows open for the moment. And let's start on the default tab that we have here at the top, which says apps and then apps, or not abs, and then next to it, your work. Okay. So before October last year, this was a fairly simple app. It was also a lot smaller. You had to click on the cloud icon here at the top on a Mac, or at the bottom near the clock in the submenu you had on a Windows computer. And then you got this little window. Now I think most people know this window from installing the apps or getting updates for the Adobe apps. But with the new and improved version of the Creative Cloud desktop app, we get a whole new experience. Now, first of all, when it comes to the apps, of course, you can still install all of your apps that you want or get your updates here on the Updates tab. It will display available updates, but also which updates were installed recently. Now what they added here below are categories. Now, as you know, for instance, me, I've been using this software for about a good 20 years now, but each year we have new people, every day we have new people who come into contact with Adobe software for the first time. And as you can see in all apps, for the desktop alone, we have around 21 or maybe 24 desktop apps, which is a lot. Then if you go to the mobile tab here at the top, then you can see even more mobile apps, and then we have a number of web services that are linked to your Adobe ID that you can use. So there is just simply too much stuff out there, Adobe apps for new users to find their way. So that's why they added these categories on the left. So for instance, we have photography, and then you can find all kinds of photography related apps, for instance. And then like a new one is social media. That's where you'll find a service like Spark that you can launch here, or Premiere Rush, which is the baby brother of Premiere Pro, geared primarily towards social media video, for instance. And we also have this 3D and AR category, for example, that mentions Dimension, Photoshop, because both of them have 3D capabilities. And on mobile, of course, we have the newcomer Aero, which allows you to place 3D objects in the real world by augmented reality, okay? Even further down the line here on the left, we have some more online resources. So we have some quick links to Adobe Stock, Adobe Fonts, Behance, a load of tutorials, and the support community. So that's just a quick overview of what changed here concerning apps. But what I want to get to here is the Your Work tab here at the top. Now, with the previous app, we had access to the files, but it was mainly just a link to the website, if you can remember that. Yes. So it took you to the website or to the local storage folder on your computer. Now, what changed with this release of the desktop app is that Adobe put CC libraries front and center in this app. It is now possible to create, share, manage assets, all from the Creative Cloud desktop app, which makes them, I think, a lot easier to manage now. We've got some examples lined up here. I don't have a simple JPEG, I think, but maybe, yeah, not an issue. So, first of all, if you take a look at this window, at the top left, you have this little icon here. That's not zooming, I think, so I'm gonna keep it at this. We have this little icon which shows you all your CC libraries here, and then below that we have this little globe icon that can take you to cloud documents, your published links, documents that were shared with you, and we even have like a trash can in the cloud. So if you ever deleted something from your CC file storage or from your cloud libraries, they end up in the cloud trash can first, and you can always bring them back from there for a certain amount of time. I don't have an exact idea of how long they stay in that trash can, but I think it has some kind of file limit or something, and after a while they start to disappear from themselves. Okay. Now, what is there to say about libraries? Actually, a lot, and we have 23 minutes left to do that. Now, first of all,
let's go.
Yeah, I've been doing training since 2011. I think CC libraries have been around for what, like 5-6 years now, or
could be. I was a bit late on catching up on the CC library stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they evolved a lot since they came into existence. Now, what are CC libraries? Because it's a little vague for a lot of people. And yeah, I was saying I've been doing training since 2011. When CC libraries came, I immediately jumped on them because I really liked the concept and the usability of them a lot. But I noticed during trainings to other industry professionals that the adoption rate was fairly low, I think.
Yes, still quite low.
Yeah, still quite a lot of people that aren't using CC libraries.
At least here in Belgium, I don't know about internationally.
Now, I think it's a bit, well, there are still a lot of obstacles. If you're a freelance designer, for instance, this is really a gift from above, so to speak. It's really easy to use as a freelancer because you have total control over everything in your Adobe ID. But for people working for a company, things can be a little bit different. Same goes for the file storage, for instance. I've noticed that some companies that we work for or that we've trained have like fairly high security measures in place concerning their IT infrastructure, and sometimes they're not even allowed to use CC libraries or the file storage. What I often say then during training is that those people got the creative but not the cloud. Okay, so they don't even.
That is true.
Yeah. They have no access to fonts, for instance, so that might be a bit of an obstacle.
Yeah. However, I've seen other companies get away with libraries on a very smart way, so they can share their assets with a collaborating freelancer, for example.
Yeah.
It's very easy to do this if you adopt the way
the new workflow.
The new workflow.
Yeah. So Actually, with CC libraries, we're like moving away from the classic server-based file folder structure thing that we've been doing for decennia now. And we're moving to something completely new. So like cloud storage isn't exactly new, of course. We've been using Dropbox, Google Drive, OneDrive for ages now. But those are all fairly classic file folder structure type of storages. That's also what Creative Cloud Storage is. Some of you might not know that, but with Creative Cloud, you get like 100 gigabytes of Creative Cloud storage. You can compare this with Dropbox, for instance.
I'm seeing 250 right here.
Don't talk about that.
Sorry.
Yeah, my colleague just noticed that I have like 250 gigabytes of storage. Now for team licenses, the default is 100 gigabytes, but for about 3 years now, I have 250 gigabytes. I don't know why, and I didn't want him to say anything about it because
I doubt Adobe will cut you off.
Yeah, I don't want Adobe to cut me off, so I want to keep the 250. It comes in fairly handy, okay? So normally you have like 100 gigabytes of storage. Now from this menu here, the little cloud, you can see how much you're using. And there are two links here, Open Sync folder or Creative Cloud Web. So this will take you to the website. I'm just gonna quickly show you the folder. So if you click on this icon, this will open a new Finder or Explorer window. It takes you to the Creative Cloud files, which is nested in your home folder. And this is simply, a folder that you can fill up with a lot of stuff. You have a limit of 100 gigabytes. So you can create folders in here, and then you can start sharing these with other people to collaborate or to simply not be using WeTransfer the whole time. You can set up a direct link with your collaborator and then just transfer files through a folder. Simple as that. Everyone with Creative Cloud with an Adobe ID has this. So if you're working with designers, try this for instance, instead of WeTransfer, okay? Now, nothing against WeTransfer, excellent service, but this is just built into the Creative Cloud. It's really deeply integrated. So this is a classic file storage type of cloud storage, but CC library is something completely different, okay? So we're no longer talking about files. Forget about files. We're talking about assets. And a good example of this is that you can add colors to a CC library. Now, most of you designers will concur that a color is not a file. An Illustrator file is a file, or a Photoshop file. These can be added to a CC library as well. But a color, you don't have a color in a folder anywhere, but you can add them to a CC library. So it contains assets, not files. Stop thinking about files and start thinking about assets in this case. So, okay, about management of libraries. On the left here, you have this whole menu that shows all your CC libraries that you created. I was doing a course today to a beginner who started out in Photoshop. I took a look at his CC libraries, and if you guys at home open this up and you haven't been quite aware of CC libraries, it might be possible that you're gonna see like 10, 20 libraries all named exactly the same, my library. Now, why is that? Because in the past, like 2 years ago, the option to add stuff to CC libraries from InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator were all activated by default. Now they changed that 2 years ago, and that's why we don't contaminate our CC libraries anymore. You have to do it on purpose if you want to add stuff to it. So it was kind of a push of Adobe to start using CC libraries, but not everybody adopted it. So as you can see, I have quite a long list, and I'm gonna immediately open up a very classic example of how CC libraries are often used, and that is a brand guide. So as you can see in this library here, this is called Talent Academy 2020. That's the company I work for, and we have a new corporate brand or corporate style. So this library actually contains all the primary colors that we use in our brand guide. I have a bunch of graphics here, and it's just two main sections right now. I have colors and I have graphics, okay? And then graphics contains pretty much everything from my logos, pardon, to icons and photos of me and my colleagues. But what you can also do is, instead of viewing them by type is like an auto category, view them by group. This was a new feature that was added like 2 years ago, I think. Yeah.
So
And you had the ability to create groups or subfolders in your CC library. So as I switch these on, the view by group, you can see that I already created like ACE labels, add Adobe app mnemonics, which are their app logos. I have a colors section, I have my logos, I have my TA trainers section, and then I still have some ungrouped assets here that are added. Now, it's really easy to sort these real quickly. So if I have this TA live poster, for instance, I think this belongs in the top category, collateral assets. So I can simply grab this one and then drag it all the way to the top. A bit faster. Come on.
okay.
Okay, this is
Could you drop
exciting.
it on the left categories?
Oh my
That
god.
might work as well.
Oh my
Yes.
god. Yeah, I'm
That's
so
way
happy you're
faster.
here. Okay, so you can simply drag them on the group on the
It's
left.
very
Yes,
intuitive
yeah.
because it was a hunch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I have this guy here. So, okay, so you can do the same for the rest. I have this vector smart object of our banner in black and white. This goes in the logos, just add it here. And then this little thing is not grouped yet. Let's create a new one. I'm gonna call this icons. Okay, and then up, simply drag this thing into the group icons. And this way your whole library is like neatly ordered the way you like it to be ordered, okay? Always keep everything tidy. The same goes for naming your assets, but we'll have a look at that in a few minutes when we start adding stuff from InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator. Okay, for now I'm gonna have a look at the current library that we're using, and this should be the TA Design Life 013. So I have no groups here yet. Let's create quickly a new one. Let's call this simply images, and then I can grab these two and put them in the group images. So, where do these guys come from, or where do these assets actually come from? These originated in Photoshop, but we'll have a look at that in a minute. First thing I'm gonna do is show you that you can now do this. There's this little plus sign here on the right. If I click on this, it will open up a Finder window, and you can go look for some assets on your computer and then add them to the library. That's one way, but you can simply grab stuff here from a Finder window that is already open, and then simply drag it into your CC library here, and it gets added. Now notice that this is an Illustrator file, so we know that works. Let's go to Photoshop. I have two Photoshop files here. I'm gonna add this poster too. That seems to work as well, so dragging in Photoshop files. Okay, I have an InDesign file here. Let's grab this little guy and then drag it into the library. Oops, that doesn't work. InDesign files are not supported. Will they ever be supported? I don't know. If anybody from Adobe is listening, feel free to comment, but
I highly doubt so.
Yeah,
They
me
aren't
too.
quite assets, they're like
yeah.
boxes full of assets.
Yeah,
so
it's a
that's-
different structure, so that might be a hard thing to
Yeah, I
add
think
to a
so.
CC library or make it even possible. So that's not possible. You can also add SVG files, PNG files, JPEG files, GIF files, you name it. All that stuff can be dragged in, and then a number of Adobe files can be added as well. Okay, so this makes managing your CC libraries a lot easier and more convenient. It's really quick to do it this way. And sometimes, depending on the asset, may take some time before it's uploaded, but as you can see, my PSD file, which was I think around 28 megabytes, took like a minute to upload. So okay. Now, what else can you do with these libraries? These libraries, first of all, they exist throughout all of the Creative Cloud. You can access these same libraries from within InDesign, Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, After Effects, Dreamweaver, maybe? I don't know. I haven't used Dreamweaver in a while.
Dreamweaver.
Sorry, Adobe.
Nope.
I do have an ACE label for Dreamweaver, but I didn't use it in a while, so sorry. But most of the apps have access to them. Same for the mobile apps, by the way. If you're using like Adobe Comp, which I kind of like, on a smartphone or a tablet, you have direct access to your CC libraries. Okay, so that's pretty cool. Now, these aren't just for you, these libraries. You can share them with the world. And how does that work? If I right click on my library here, you get these links: collaborate, share link, you can rename it or delete it. Or if you're in that library already, we have the same icon here on the top right, which says share library, and this will open up this window. Now, what I'm gonna do is invite my colleague here. I'm gonna do this quickly. This is an important one. So as I'm sharing this with my colleague, I have two options here before I invite him. I can give him view access, reading rights, or I can give him read-write access, can edit. So if I do this, we both have same powers in this library. He can add stuff, edit stuff that's in the library. But for instance, that's good and all, because we're colleagues, we work for the same company, so, and I trust him with all my stuff, so he can edit the library. But for instance, if you're a business that's working with freelancers and you want to give them access to this library, you set it to can view, and then you simply invite that person. He can use all of the assets in the Adobe apps, but he cannot edit or overwrite them. What's more, if you do edits to your assets and save them, he gets the updates as well. And so if he used the logo like in InDesign, you change the logo, he will have the option to update that logo in InDesign. So I'm gonna give you editing rights. I'm gonna invite you, and as I click on this, he should be receiving a notification.
Okay, this went fast.
Okay, so we've noticed some lag in the notification center in the past couple of months.
Seems to be fixed.
But yeah, it seems to be fixed, and just now I can see that my colleague Yancy joined this library. So I get pop-ups and notifications all day long from all libraries and folders that I shared with people. If they add stuff, I get updates, and yeah, which is really handy to collaborate with people, right? All right. Another option to share this, there is the collaborate function. That's what we just did. But there is also the share link option. This will give you a simple shareable link that you can mail to people, or you can put it on your brand portal, on your website, for instance. I encountered one before today. So okay, so this is the link. I can allow people to follow my library. If they follow the library, they will receive updates as well. If I activate allow save to Creative Cloud, the people on the other end have an option to save it to their cloud, but it is not linked to my CC library. So they get their standalone copy of my CC library. They will be able to edit all the assets in there, and it's not linked to mine. This can be handy, but depends on the project or the type of collaboration that you have with those people. So if it's just for external people that need to use your assets but not be able to edit them in any way, you just turn off that second option and just keep allow follow on. I encountered it once before. I had to do a training for a client went to their brand portal, and hallelujah, it said download our Creative Cloud library. So that was like one of the best days in my life. So I really love that moment. I only saw that once ever before. But it's possible. You can simply put a link on your website and hide this URL behind it, and people will be able to follow your library, which is really cool for all designers because they have direct access. Okay. So that's about managing CC libraries from the Creative Cloud desktop app. Now let's have a look at managing or using them from within the Adobe applications.
Yes, we're going to be focusing on Illustrator, InDesign, and Photoshop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's. I'm gonna start with Illustrator. Why? Because we work with logos a lot. So I'm gonna open up Illustrator here. I already have two logos open for the moment. First of all, on the right, if it's not open already in your application, you can see there is a panel here, libraries. If you can't find that panel, go up to the window menu. It's named libraries. They're not very consistent. I think in Photoshop it's called CC libraries.
I'm not sure, but it
yeah,
is
it's
in
different.
InDesign. It has a reason.
Ah, okay.
We'll get back to it.
Okay, excellent. I'm curious now. Okay. All right, so I have this logo here. Now adding this to a CC library is fairly easy. I just need to select the asset and then drag it into the CC library. Okay, that's it. Okay, it added two of these. Okay, I'm gonna undo this for a second.
Wasn't this one there yet?
Yeah, it's possible. Okay, I wasn't paying attention, but you simply select the element, the vector element, and you drag it into your CC library. Okay, that way you created a vector asset in the cloud. Now, after you did this, one thing you need to understand very clearly is that this file, this Illustrator file that I have open in Illustrator, has nothing to do anymore with the CC asset that has now been created. So I can open this asset up right now. It's called Artwork 1. I'm gonna just rename this logo full color RGB. Okay, so if I double click on this asset, and it doesn't matter if you do this in InDesign, Photoshop, or Illustrator, it will open up that asset in its source application. So if I double click on it, as you can see, it opened like a new file in Illustrator, and it's not this file. Okay, if you look at the naming, it gets the name, of course, of your CC library asset here, the way you named it, and then this really long like number behind it, which I always call how do they call it in English, like the nummerplaat?
Oh yeah, generic.
The license plate, the car license plate.
License plate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It's like an ID.
Yeah, well, I always call this the license plate on the Creative Cloud highway, so to speak. So that's how Adobe tracks all these assets around the world throughout the whole system. So as you can see, I can simply even close this file. I can throw it away if I want to, because that asset that I created started a whole new life in the CC library now. And so if you want to edit the asset, you simply double click on it to edit in its source application. If you want to start using this this thing, I'm gonna quickly jump into InDesign for a second. So same thing here, I have my CC library. If I want to use this asset here, I can simply drag it out like you do with other images, and then simply place it, and there's your asset. Again, from InDesign, if I double click on it, it will open up in Illustrator because that's where it comes from, and I can start changing things around. I'm gonna quickly change this color, for instance, go back to the old one. Okay, I'm gonna save this. As you can see, it's updated here, but let's return to InDesign, and it's already updated in InDesign as well. Okay, now this is seamless because it's on my computer locally. It will update automatically, but for external people using my library, they will get a notification telling them that an image is out of date and that they need to update the assets or the link in InDesign, and then it will change to the new color as well. Okay, so that's basically how you add vector assets to the library from Illustrator. Now, it's best to always start from the source application. Why? Because I'm gonna return to InDesign for a second here, and as you can see in this file, I already have the logo here, which is placed in the classical way. So this is a linked file to a vector file, an Illustrator file, which is on my computer right now. Now, I could drag this asset into a CC library as well.
Yes.
But what are we creating then?
We're creating an InDesign asset, which means InDesign works with frames with the image inside it. This is the principle of links. You could always check your links panel in InDesign. Okay. So whoever is working with InDesign knows this. So this refers to a location on your hard drive. So this gets imported in the library as well. So the library.
Minimize this one.
Yeah, sure. It's above it. So in our CC library, right here, we have our artwork. It's still updating.
Yeah.
You could check the assets by list view.
Yeah, that's a handy one as well.
Yes, that's a very handy one.
Yeah.
So you can see it says a little icon right here, InDesign.
Yeah.
So this is a big difference when it's in a illustrated file. It has a little AI icon next to it. So let's say I share this library with someone else. He tries to place this InDesign logo.
Yeah.
He will have a missing link because he won't have access to my or your hard drive.
Yeah.
So pay attention to this.
Let's try this. So if I drag this out and place it, I have no issues. But like Jensi said, this actually contains an image frame with inside the frame a file which is on my desktop. So if you share this externally, exactly, that person is gonna have problems because he doesn't have access to my desktop, of course. Okay, so just make sure that you create the asset from the source application. Vectors come from Illustrator. Now, it's not an issue if you have the vector right here in InDesign. So for instance, a simple rectangle is a vector asset. I can also drag that into a library if I wanted to, but it also gets added to as an InDesign asset. If you were to double click it to edit it, this will open a new InDesign file with that rectangle at the center of it. Okay, so it's very important to create your assets from the right application. Okay,
yes, true.
Be careful with that.
Can I point a little something out?
Yes,
right
you
here?
can.
So, just a little. Gonna drag this Illustrator file right here.
Okay.
So we haven't checked this in the links panel yet. So as you can see right here, we have a little Illustrator file, and it is marked with a little cloud icon. This means it's a file linked to a CC library. So you can compare this with a regular link which doesn't have that little icon.
Yeah, any icon. Apart from that, when it needs to be updated, the little cloud icon will display a little exclamation mark in the yellow, classic yellow orangey triangle thingy. Yes. That appears.
Which also means if you're sharing an InDesign document with a fellow designer, he should also have access to the same CC library. Yeah. Because it will be a missing cloud link if he doesn't have the library.
Exactly. So whenever you're collaborating with other people, exchanging InDesign documents, you need to share the Creative Cloud library as well. Now, on a side note, and this is a good thing, when you actually package an InDesign file, it will extract all those cloud link files from the cloud and put them in the links folder, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I would expect if I'm packaging.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So when you transfer that package to somebody else, he won't have any missing links. He fixes the whole file and then makes sure that they're all linked to a local file and no longer to the cloud, but only when packaging. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna revert some stuff here for a second. I'm gonna delete these two because it's getting on my nerves.
Yes, this has been happening lately, but
Yeah.
they are
See
in
them.
fact actually synced to the cloud.
Yeah,
So
I
it
see that
just
happen
keeps
with InDesign assets a lot, and not from Photoshop or Illustrator for some reason.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Now yeah.
so
See.
vector assets, that was number one that we can add to the cloud. Now let's have a little look at colors. Okay, so how do we actually add colors? And I'm gonna select this flag here for a second. Okay, so when I select the flag, I'm now not gonna drag this into the CC library. What I'm gonna do is click on the little plus sign here at the bottom, which says add content. Okay, and now I get two more options. So I can choose add graphic, and that's the same as dragging this whole thing manually into the CC library. But we also have this option fill color, and if I choose this one, it gets added to the cloud. Okay, so that's one way you can do this. Another way, we have a lot of hidden icons or new icons in certain panels. Like for instance, if I go into the swatches panel here, I'll put it at the center. If I go into the swatches panel, as you can see, I have two other brand colors right here. I'm gonna select both of them. And now in the bottom here, we have this little icon to add the selected swatches to the CC library. So if I simply click on this, both colors get added to it at the same time. So that's an easy way if you already have like a classic, what's it called, an ACE file, ASA file that contains your colors and exported
Yes.
color library. Yeah, I'm pretty old school. If you have like an ACE file and you load that into InDesign or Illustrator, you can then select all the swatches at once and then simply drag them into your library or use that little icon here. Okay, so that's about adding colors. Now we all know in the design industry, color is a sensitive subject. And why is it sensitive? All of you out there know what I'm talking about when I say CMYK or RGB or lab colors, and we're talking about color management and color spaces, which are really important in the design industry, especially for your output. We're not going to use RGB colors for print output and vice versa, never use CMYK colors in an RGB file, for instance. Now, good thing to know is that CC libraries are aware of color settings. So this file is an RGB file. Okay, if I go up to File, to Edit, Color Settings, no, I'm lost. Where is it? Document color mode. As you can see here, it says RGB. So when I add colors to a CC library from within this file, they will be added as RGB. Okay. If you start from an InDesign file, however, I'm gonna have a quick look if they're in there. They better be. Okay. It's an RGB file. An RGB swatch, but that's because I dragged it in earlier on, I think. Okay, I'm gonna just quickly create a new one. Our new brand color is, what was it, 100 0 0. Okay, so this is actually our new color. I'm gonna call this primary magenta or magenta. Okay, so same here. If I select the swatch, I have this little icon at the swatches at the bottom of the swatch panel, which allows me to drop it into that CC library. Okay, so I'm gonna click on it and it added the swatch primary magenta. Now if I hover over it, you can see that it mentions the CMYK values and it does not for these swatches which were added from Illustrator, for instance, because they come from an RGB file. So the same goes for the whole logo that I dragged in. That's why I called it full color RGB, because I often make distinct folders or different libraries for print and for web. Okay, so keep those things separated. Be sure to use the right color swatches for the right type of project or output, so you don't get any errors in printing or publishing to the web. Okay. One other thing I like to point out at this point has to do with Illustrator. I added these two swatches earlier on. Now this little white triangle here, what does that indicate?
They're global swatches.
They're global swatches. Yeah. What are global swatches?
You know, in InDesign, whenever you add or make a swatch, it's a sort of a master item. When you change the swatch definition, the color, it will change throughout the document.
Correct.
In Illustrator, you have the concept of free swatches, things that aren't directly linked to the document.
Yeah.
However, global swatches, they do. Yeah. So you change the global swatch in the swatches panel, it will also change in your
Exactly.
document.
So if I draw an object in Illustrator, I select this orange swatch, it gets that color, okay? But if I open up this swatch and I change the settings to green, I click on, let's add it to the preview, nothing changes, okay? That's how it's worked with the basic swatches in Illustrator for ages. Now in InDesign, basically, they're linked indeed, and if you want that in Illustrator, you have to turn on this global option, okay? Awesome, right? Okay, so then you have a swatch that actually updates. I'm gonna select it now, and then let's create some copies to illustrate our point. Open this up, change the swatch, turn on the preview, all the objects got recolored by the global swatch. Okay, that's pretty awesome. I'm happy that it works that way, but I'm gonna add this one to the library as well. Now, not to have any confusion, let's make it green again, so it's distinct for you guys out there. So it's a green global swatch. I'm gonna add it to my CC library, okay? Gets added like before, nothing wrong with this. Now let's see what happens when I go to InDesign and I want to use this swatch. Let's click on that green color here, and oh, the horror. First of all, it got imported as an RGB, but it came from an RGB file, but that's not the issue here. The issue that we have with this is this little thingy here. Now, if you're not aware of what this means, this color is a spot color, okay? It gets separated due to a different separation. Okay, so that's dangerous. That's dangerous because this gets a bit technical for some designers maybe, but for people who do like a lot of desktop publishing, this is an issue. This shouldn't happen, okay? So Adobe, if you're listening, fix that, man. Fix it, because this is an issue.
For too long.
Yeah, it's been like that from the beginning. So watch out. We don't want spot colors in InDesign when we don't ask for them. So it's still like this. I've mentioned it a couple of times on the support website as well. But fix that, please. That would be awesome. Okay. So that's about covers, I think, colors. Looking at the time, we're already past our time, but we're just gonna keep going till we covered.
So we're here, we're live.
Yeah, we're here, we're live, and just keep going. Okay. So okay, I'm gonna switch to Photoshop now, because we're gonna have a look at adding images. Okay. Why are you not maximizing?
Got hit.
It got hidden. Let's click. Oh, there I am. Okay, that's me again. Okay, ooh, 2 times. Okay. So from Photoshop, you can add some stuff through CC libraries as well. Now, as you can see here, I have this color section that we created earlier. I'm viewing by type. Let's view it by group. I have my images, and in my images folder in the CC library, we already have a Yancy. Add your name. I have my colleague Tom, he's our motion design guy, and I'm missing from the team. So what am I gonna do? I wanna add my own photo to the CC library. Now I could drag the PSD that you're looking at right now simply to the Creative Cloud desktop app inside that library. That's one way I could do that. But let's take a look at how we do this from Photoshop, because this is pretty interesting. I'm gonna select the layers. So I have two hidden layers here, which are not very useful. I'm gonna use this this oldie, but still a goodie. Delete hidden layers, then they're gone. Yes. So I select all the visible layers right now, and I drag these into my CC library. And as you can see, this added me as a kind of CC library asset, and it's a PS element. So this thing, again, just like with the logo, it started a new life in the CC library. This file I can simply put down the trash right now, or put it in the trash right now. I'm not even gonna save it. And this thing, I'm gonna rename it, give it my own name, Michael. Okay. If I wanna edit this, just gonna double click on it in the CC library, and this opens seemingly the same file, but this actually just contains the four layers that I dragged into the CC library asset. So that's actually a way to add this stuff to the CC library, your images or your Photoshop files, so to speak. Now, some other interesting stuff that you can do with this, or at least I think this is interesting. As you can see in this file, we have some adjustment layers. Now, adjustment layers, sometimes, like in this case, all these pictures of us came from a photo shoot that we did on the same night in the same conditions. So actually these adjustment layers, curves and gradient map, I think they can be safely applied to all the images taken that night. Sure. Okay, so they were all under the same conditions, same lighting, so to speak. So these edits can be applied to other images as well. Now let's look at what happens if I drag simply these two to my CC library. Oh. It gets added. Okay, so I have a new PS element, and these are just the adjustment layers. So I'm gonna call this portrait adjustments. Okay, so now what can I do with these? I'm gonna open up my colleague's portrait here. He already has those, but let's say he didn't have those edits yet, and it's just his picture. So I want to add these. Now I'm gonna just simply try to drag it out here. Okay. Oops, I get this thing. It warns me that it gets linked to the cloud. Okay. I'm gonna click OK. Some guy somehow shows me this transform window. I'm gonna double click and nothing happens. This is not what I expected. I simply wanted those two layers here because right now what we have here is a cloud linked asset. Just like what happened in InDesign, when we place the asset, it gets added to the layers panel as a cloud linked asset.
Cloud linked smart object.
Yeah, a smart object, a cloud linked smart object, exactly. But the adjustment layers don't do what they're supposed to do on this image, okay? They don't change a thing. So that's not what I wanted. I'm gonna throw these away again. Now let's have a look. Under the right click menu, when I right click on the CC library asset here, I see there are two ways of placing it. So it says place linked, place layers. Okay, I'm gonna use place layers. Oh my, there they are. Now, okay, they're no longer linked to this library asset, but I think it's a pretty nifty or easy way to transfer certain adjustment layers or things that you often or regularly use, and you want to reuse them in other files. So this is a quick way, just use place layers and then they get placed again. You can do the same like with the other portraits. For instance, if I drag in my own portrait here, it gets added as a cloud linked smart object. Okay, so it's a single thing that
Yeah.
I have here. I'm gonna turn it off now, but I can also choose place layers. And then I get all these layers that I had from the original file, not linked anymore to the CC asset, but editable in Photoshop. Okay, that's really cool. And that's what you can do with vector logos as well from Illustrator. So even from within Illustrator, for instance, if you drag the logo into this file, it gets added as a linked file. Let's have a look at links here. So as you can see, this again is a cloud linked asset right now. I'm gonna delete it again, and then same goes here. You can choose, it's not named place layers, but if you choose place copy, you will end up with an editable vector.
Oh.
So it's unpacked.
Yeah, but there's seems
Yeah.
to be a slight issue.
Yeah, that's not an issue. That's actually the pixel grid
Oh,
alignment
yeah.
in action. Watch out with that in web documents, but that's for a different live session, I
Yeah.
guess, not for
Think so.
today. Yeah, so that's an issue with the grid. So point is, right
No,
click,
okay.
place linked, place copy. Place copy gives you editable vector assets from within Illustrator. Okay, so I think that's about it for Photoshop assets. I'm gonna close this file and then I'm gonna transfer the computer to this genius right here, and he's gonna tell you a little about working with text from within InDesign, because that is the fourth type of CC library asset that we have, which is
Yeah.
text and not to forget styles. Okay, so take it away, Jens.
Yes, I will. So,
I'm gonna have a little sip.
first of all, I had promised a little thing you should know about why is this one named CC libraries.
Yeah.
So if we get back
Tell
to Photoshop, let's double check. It's called libraries as well in Photoshop, but in InDesign suddenly we have the CC libraries. Well, it's actually fairly easy when you're a long time InDesign user. You know the concept of libraries already existed in InDesign,
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
why
Yeah, of
they're
course,
not
of
they're
course.
not under the window
No.
by standard, but it's like a file you need to create,
Yeah,
and you put assets in them. That's actually
where
how
it originated.
where it
Yeah,
originated.
yeah,
So the whole
exactly.
concept of libraries, they took it and they said, well, why don't we use it for
Yeah,
all our
well,
apps?
Why didn't we start with this?
I
Okay,
don't know.
Sorry.
You keep the best for last, I guess.
Yeah. Okay.
So, in InDesign, we have all sorts of assets we can add as well. So, like the swatches, we already talked about that, so I'm gonna skip that one. But we have a little something like text styles. We have a little something like object styles as well. I'm gonna have a little look at that also. So under styles, I'm gonna look for the paragraph styles. Yeah, there it is. Here are my character styles, and I'm gonna open up the object styles as well, just to show that I have applied one as well. Let's just see what CC libraries does with that.
I think that's something like with CC libraries. I noticed a lot of people don't use object styles. Start using object styles.
Yes, they're so brilliant.
They're awesome.
Okay. Well, first off, I'm gonna just drag and drop this little text frame right here. So it's a text frame. I put the text centered both horizontally and vertically, but I'm not gonna talk about how to do that. That will be for another time. So just drag it in the library.
Reframe.
Yeah. So
Okay.
as we can see, it gets added as text. We can expect this one to be circling around for forever because there is a little problem right here, but it does get synced. I have noticed it just keeps on having this little animation.
Okay.
So
It's fun.
it's a it's a text asset, which means you can maybe have some boilerplate text or some copyright text, things you repeatedly need to use. That's quite handy. But I can also add this in different ways. So let's have a look. When we use the plus sign, like in Illustrator, we have a little plus sign right here as well in the libraries, and we can add this asset in different ways because
Ooh.
it's text like this one. It's also a paragraph style. I applied a little character style for the first character right here,
The hashtag, right?
and I can place it as a graphic. So a graphic, I'll do this one first. It will get added right here, and it will be this text frame with these exact dimensions and the containing paragraph style and
Yeah.
character style.
So actually, this adds everything.
Yeah,
all at
just
once.
have a new document
Okay.
instantly. If you don't know, Option Command or Alt Control N will make you a new document without the little dialogue. I'll just have this one right here.
He's just showing off now.
Maybe name it. That would be better. So hashtag.
A little more naming and a little less shortcuts. Dude.
So, it's this one. Whenever I do this, the paragraph style gets transported with it because it is inside the text frame, the character style as well, and also the object style. If I still have this window right here, oh, here it is. Right. So there it is.
Okay.
This gets transported as well. That's quite a good thing because there is no other way to add an object style as an asset itself.
So actually, this is a pretty good way to transfer a load of styles all at once, for instance.
Yeah,
If
sure.
you want to.
So
Yeah.
if you want to, so you really have to think about it if it's a good thing or not. It depends
Okay.
on the context and what you're doing.
Okay. So we have this added as a graphic, and the graphic takes the paragraph, character, and object styles along for the ride.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure does.
So is that the same and then as adding the paragraph style?
Well, I'll
No?
add the paragraph style and maybe the character style as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna have.
Yeah, change it
I'm
to
gonna
type
change
maybe.
it to type. Sure. So maybe I'm gonna close this one for a minute. Show the graphic as well. So paragraph style, character style, and as a text. Normally we have a preview, but you'll just have to wait till tomorrow for that. So, a paragraph style, that's quite a handy thing as well to add to a document. So in the second new document, the paragraph style is empty right here. So we can add these styles quite easily. For example, you just right click and you can add these to the paragraph styles in your document.
Okay.
Yeah. You could also, so I'm gonna return right here. You have some text, right? And just apply it like that. Just click on the paragraph style. Come on. Yeah. There we go. Right. So I can see he took over the
The name of
no, yeah.
hashtag.
Yeah, right.
Kind
So
of,
he took over a second paragraph style. I think that's because there's a based on style
Yeah.
inside the hashtag style.
You made it too complex.
I just didn't notice that. Those things can still happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have the character style that we can.
So it actually even
add.
brought the based on style along with it.
Oh, he will always do that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Even through a CC library.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, that's cool.
But only in InDesign.
Yeah.
So that's quite odd. There's no based on right here, so I'm quite. Don't know how this.
Well, let's not
happened.
worry about that
No.
for right now.
No, let's not worry about
I
it.
think, to be honest, I really like the concept of these paragraph and character styles in the CC library as well, but they're not easily transferable
No.
to Photoshop and Illustrator because although Photoshop and Illustrator both have paragraph and character styles as well, I think if I'm not mistaken, paragraph styles get translated into character styles in Illustrator, and he doesn't make
and Photoshop, I guess.
yeah, and Photoshop. He doesn't make paragraph styles out of paragraph styles.
That's
That's
because
weird.
No,
It's,
yeah,
yeah.
but there's a reason behind it, because InDesign has this massive typographic uh, possibilities,
Yeah.
like paragraph shading, paragraph rules above, below.
Yeah.
Illustrator and Photoshop don't have
Don't
these
have
extensive
those.
options, so
Yeah.
they can't adopt them through the library.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
I
interesting.
know there's a limit. Also, what I really miss is the possibility to edit my paragraph style in the
Yeah.
panel, in the library itself. So you can't double click it.
Yeah. Exactly. It's not linked anymore after you use it
Yeah.
in an InDesign file. It's no longer linked in any way to the style in the CC library actually.
Yeah. So, maybe just close this one for a minute.
Okay.
If you want to update your style right here in the CC library, what you have to do is throw this one away and then add your style again to the library.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So,
Um,
text.
Yeah. Let's have a look at text. How does that
Still
work?
need to do. Well, there are a few possibilities. So, the most easy one to do is just drag and drop it again.
Okay, so we're now dragging out the text asset that you can see in the CC libraries panel, not any of the styles, but the text asset that you created. So maybe show it quickly again if you click on the plus sign here. It's the one that says text at the top and not the one that says graphic at the bottom. It's a big
Yeah,
difference.
There's a difference, but on first glance it doesn't look like that because it has the same formatting again. I'm just gonna check right here in my styles panel. So these get transferred as well. But what is the difference right here? Except for being formatted the right way, we have a little cloud icon
Okay,
on the text frame.
which
right
means
here.
it's linked. Okay.
Yes, it does mean it's linked. Let's check the links panel, and it is a linked asset. So
Okay,
we can
cool.
have text as a linked asset as well, which means I can update the text. Let's just do that. This one we can edit.
Okay. So you
Um,
double clicked on the CC library item, that opens up like a new file,
Yeah,
and then you can edit.
and let's say someone has
Some camel
said
writing.
to us, "Hey, why don't you do this?
Okay,
Makes
and
it more readable." You
save it.
just save it and close it. Don't mind the boundaries of the text.
No, exactly.
Yeah. So InDesign will look at whatever element is right here and
Mhm.
will ignore any empty
I
spaces.
think it uses the last used or created file size.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I
And
never.
then the last one was an A4, so it used an A4 now to open the asset in. But as you can see at the top here, there's no cloud link icon. This is the original
This is the
asset.
original.
Again, we have the license
Yeah.
plate number at the top. Okay, so
That's true.
let's see what happens in the other document.
So
now.
save it and close it. That's what I
Ah,
just did.
It's
It
already
gets
updated.
updated. Again, no preview, but there should be one. And it's true. It's updated in our document. This can be a very handy trick,
Yeah.
but be aware it is linked. So
Okay.
it could be something you don't want. Then you have to
Yeah.
use something else. You
Yeah.
can place it as an unlinked text as well.
Okay.
So let's just right click again. That's sometimes the best way to see the
All the
possible,
options.
all the
Yeah.
possible options. So we can place a copy.
Okay.
Let's just do that. Here we go. So same result, but no
First
cloud
glance.
link icon.
No, it's a standalone item.
Luckily.
Okay.
There's a third one for whoever noticed, place without styles. This could be a handy one as well. So you can expect what it does is you have the unformatted version of your text. However, I would like for Adobe to be able to give me this whenever I'm um, having some text. So I will add text here. Let's say you want to add your text unformatted, so adopting the current formatting right here. Let's just try that. My text cursor is right here. Right click. My only option right here is to place inline. However, this is the formatted version, so there's no option to place inline unformatted.
Is it linked to the library? Does this thing get updated? So open it up and then.
No, I don't
No,
think so.
So it's
It would be
styled
quite
and
surprising.
unlinked.
So let's say this one, the linked one gets away. There's no link right here. There's no
Yeah, exactly.
nothing
It's a
saying it's
standalone
linked.
item.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is pretty useful for like a baseline or a tagline that you have to reuse the whole time. I'm also thinking about your address information at the bottom of
Yeah.
like your newsletters or something, you know, reusable assets, and you want to keep them up to date from one single source. This actually kind of reminds me of the option that we had in the edit menu for some time, the place and link option.
Oh yeah. Sure.
So it's here, yeah, place
I'll
and link.
just have to
Yeah.
select something first.
Yeah, it's been around for some time. So the place and link gives you the what's that thing? The content collector, and you can
Yeah.
actually go to like a new document if you want to.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Command Z. Okay. Yeah.
Content collector has,
Oh, well.
has gone. There it is.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So
Okay, and then you can simply place that in another document as well. Now, yeah, you have to save the source first. But what this actually does, then one file has like the master text element, and you have linked text elements in other InDesign files. But it kind of resembles, but yeah, what we're doing right now. But now our master asset is in a CC library.
yeah. that's
Okay.
A bit better.
Yeah.
This one right here in the new document, you have to make sure the InDesign document doesn't move,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
be aware that there's a link, a source in an InDesign document.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Okay.
make it easy.
Yeah. All right. I think that about covers it for working with text.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
Okay. Great. Okay, so I think we kind of doubled our time. We kind of aimed at half an hour, but that was not enough by a long shot.
It's our pilot, so
Yeah, it's our pilot.
we're still working things out.
Yeah, but that's all the time we have for tonight. So I hope you found this interesting. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Then I'm gonna be here with my colleague Tom, and we're gonna do a little motion project together. I'm gonna be designing an ad for social media in Photoshop or Illustrator, and then my colleague is gonna After Effects the hell out of it. And yeah,
Sounds about right.
let's see what that gives. Okay, so hope to see you guys back in like 2 weeks, and thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.
Blijf van de muis.
Oh, sorry.
Dude.